Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise pros, Stan the Man, Paul Segreto. Time to show you the way of franchising today. Hey, do you possess the spirit of an entrepreneur? Wanna lay your business plan down like a rug or a floor? Or maybe you have a dream of opening a chain of delis, or whatever passion lights that pilot light under your belly. Or do you want to start a business, fam, using the proven trademark from another brand? And grow together and expand like a rage of fire, from a single to a multi-unit empire. Well, pay attention to this podcast that you hear, streaming in HD, so fine-tune both of your ears. And Stan and Paul lays down the law. Whether you want to be a franchisee or a franchisor, it's all about sustainable growth, the sensible franchising, proven concepts, and smart enterprising. So use your left and right side of your brain and absorb this knowledge here, franchising today. Badlands, baby. Franchising today. Sustainable growth, the sensible franchising. Franchising today. Sustainable growth, the sensible franchising. Franchising today. Franchising today. Franchising today. Yeah.
Hello, everyone in the franchise world. My name is Paul Segreto, and this is Franchise Today. Today is Wednesday, June 27th, 2018, and normally I would be joined by my co-host, the infamous Stan Friedman, who will not be with us today as he is caught up in some major travel schedule and red eyes and a whole 9 yards. So, Stan, rest up, my friend. Just like to bring up some thoughts from the IFA Insider yesterday. Momentum is rising around franchising, including last week's advancement of association health plans and the NLRB's recent decision to take up joint employer rulemaking. So your attendance at the Franchise Action Network annual meeting in September in Washington, D.C. will allow you to take the franchise community's message straight to lawmakers. Everybody counts. Unite with the IFA in Washington. Also, succession planning and transfer of leadership can often be complicated for many franchises. Kolache Factory CEO Dawn Nielsen, a guest of our show a few months ago, who started sweeping the floors of her parents' franchise business at age 9, shares her personal story and advice for taking over the family brand in this exclusive and franchising world magazine. Also, if you're part of an emerging concept founded by a millennial entrepreneur looking to scale, then you should apply for Next Gen in Franchising Global Competition. What do you get? Well, exposure for your business, a trip to IFA 2019, a spot at the Next Gen in Franchising Summit, and access to Next Gen's Accelerator program, and more. We've had some great guests on from the program in the past. If you're led by a millennial, your founder who's a millennial, I would jump at this right away. So also to wrap up, targeting the local area is one of the best ways to increase foot traffic to your store. Join Todd Walls, Buxton's Chief Innovation Officer, for a free webinar on July 18th, driving foot traffic through local store marketing. And all of that is in this week's IFA Insider. So we might as well just jump right into today's show, as Stan is not here to give me a hard time and me to give him a hard time. Today's segment is titled Bringing Outdoors Indoors for All Four Seasons. Our guest, Scott Walker, President and CEO of Screenmobile, was quoted as saying, in addition to health, wellness, and proper screen functionality, a trend we see today is bringing the outdoors indoors by incorporating a four-season screened-in room with both home and commercial properties. Scott, welcome to Franchise Today.
Well, thank you, Paul. Appreciate being here today.
And I would like to thank All Points Public Relations for continuing to help promote Franchise Today. I know that Scott came in by way of Bailey Hewitt and the team at All Points, so we appreciate that. You know, Scott, first of all, I'd like to apologize for Stan not being here today. He contacted me about 6 in the morning, dragging his way back from Atlanta Airport after a red eye. So he wanted to pass on his apologies for not being on today as well.
No worries. That means I get your unabated attention.
Yep, that's it. Well, as we usually say on the show to our guests to start out, franchising is not something we wake up one day and say, I think we'll get involved in franchising. It usually finds us, and sometimes at the most unique times. Sometimes it's kind of planned out and we do some research, and sometimes doors or windows just open up. So why don't you bring us back as far as you would like and lead us up into, your step into franchising and where you are today.
Yeah, no worries, Paul. That was a good one. Doors and windows. Yeah, I'm into that big time. I want to just say that we're from California, and there's been 3 great companies that have started from garages in California: Microsoft, Apple, and Screenmobile. So we're in a good spot, and we started.
I would say so.
Yeah, we started in the LA area, and Paul, it's interesting. I wish we were smart enough to know what we know now. When you're exactly right, it just kind of found us, and we weren't planning on getting in the franchise industry. We were very familiar with the franchising world, but it happened to be a father and son business that my dad was I was in college. My dad was in the aerospace purchasing world, and he had 4 kids, some in college, and wasn't making enough money. And we were from the side of the tracks that if it was broken, it stayed broken unless you fixed it. And so it was pretty easy when my dad went to a franchise show and saw franchise The House Doctor. And we've been fixing things all our lives and thought, well, this is interesting. And so he ended up purchasing a franchise called The House Doctor. I think it's changed ownerships a couple times since then. And so we started, and he called me up and he said, hey, I bought a franchise. I need some help. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm going to college. I have a landscaping business. And he needed some help. And I'm like, sure, what do you need? And he says, I need somebody to actually do the work. I'm good at the sales and the managing of it. I need somebody to do the work. So I became the production technician. And it was really interesting that, just everything I used to do, fixing around things at home, now we were charging for it. And it was, we kind of fell into the screening world. We never, like I said, I wish we were smart enough, but we just never knew that the screening industry was so large. And so what happened was that I had a friend of mine I went to high school with. He was working at the local lumber yard. We were running the House Doctor franchise, and I found that if I sold the job, I'd have to go to the lumber yard to pick up whatever hardware I need. And my friend Kurt was working in the screen shop, and so I'd go and not only sell the job, but I'd pick up 10 or 15 screens. I'd bring in my buddy Kurt. He'd put me first in line, and I'd get the job done while I'm buying the material. I'd come back and install it. The customers just loved that. Well, Kurt was a really good guy. He actually worked for me for a while, and in that time, he moved up into management. Well, what happened then is I do my same routine, come back to Kurt. Well, where's Kurt? He's in management. Well, I got a bunch of screens. Yeah, no problem. We can take care of it for you. It'll be 2 weeks. It's like, well, that's not going to work. My customers, they want that service. They want the convenience. So we ended up building a screening table in our garage. And we started doing the same routine. And so instead of having them done with Kurt, we'd bring them to our garage. We'd do them in the garage. We'd go install them. Customers loved it. Well, what happened was we're in L.A., California, and the traffic down there can be horrendous. So we had about a 45-minute drive to a customer that just wanted 2 window screens. And then we'd have to go down there and measure them, come back and make them in the garage, go back and install them, and come back. So I'm thinking, that's 3 hours of travel time for 2 window screens. Now this was back in the early '80s, and so we were. It was maybe $70 was the total job. But that winter, we had bought a tent trailer from our neighbor, and that tent trailer we took up camping. The wind came up, and it blew it apart, and so we made a utility trailer out of it. So we were standing there talking about this job, and we're looking at this utility trailer sitting there, and we said, you know what, why don't we just take the table and put it in the trailer, and we'll just take it down and do it all at the same time. So we put some frame on there, some fabric, some corners, a saw, an extension cord, and while we were down there, we did the 2 window screens, but the neighbor came up, we did a couple more screens, and we're like, wow, this really worked. They really liked it. This was easy. It was convenient. We're onto something here. So we started instead of strapping our table down on the tent trailer, now we actually bolted it down and started soliciting people to do screens at their house, and found out that there was, 4,000 screening companies before we started. But we started providing the mobile aspect with a professional service aspect. And what happened was that you just treat people well, you do what you say, you charge a fair price, they love it. You offer the convenience, which really was an inconvenient market. So we're thinking, well, this is great. So we're working with the House Doctor franchise, and you know what he promised in his franchise agreement, he wasn't delivering. And so, we came from a franchisee's perspective, and we thought, if we ever started our own franchise, we would sure do things differently. And so we dissolved that relationship with that franchisor, and we started just doing Screenmobile. And so we started just doing Screenmobile. We were in the LA basin, and it became wintertime. And so we said, well, we used to go camping with our grandparents out at the Colorado River, which is about 4 hours from LA. So let's go out there because we know it's warmer in the winter. Well, at the time, I'm in college. I'm dating this cute little girl, and I'm thinking, I don't want to be 4 hours away. So we're driving out, and there was a sign that said Palm Springs. And since we're from the side of the tracks that didn't know anything about resort living, golf courses, had no idea, we pulled off there and said, I wonder if there's any homes there and if anybody needs any screens. And we started our second location in the Palm Springs area. Our first location was in LA. Our second one was in Palm Springs. And we thought, well, this can work. And we probably should franchise this. So coming from the House Doctor perspective as a franchisee, and now thinking about, well, we've done 2 locations now. We could probably franchise this. What do we want to do with our franchise system, and what is going to be part of our culture of what we're going to build into our franchisees, and what are going to be our cornerstones of what makes us successful and what will make our system successful over the years. And so we started selling franchises. First one was, if you've interviewed enough franchisors, it's usually family and friends is where you start at, and
sure.
Especially for the new people that are just starting up and thinking about, getting into the franchises or building a franchise, you're going to look at your family and friends. And so we tapped my dad's brother and sister, and they both bought a franchise, one in Boise, Idaho, and one in Alameda, California, and then my sister. And so we started teaching them the industry, making some mistakes, but we just knew the right things to do for the consumer and continue to do those right things. And we've been franchising and from that point till now. And
so before we get too deep into the franchise side, I'd like to talk a little bit about the consumer side, because it's interesting. You basically start the consumer proposition while you're a franchisee with somebody else, and then make the change. And as you're even growing the business, you're already starting to think about expanding locations, which dealing with low-hanging fruit, as you would say, people
Sure.
that relatives that get involved in it. But from a consumer standpoint, what were the differentiation points from you and all those other, mom and pop handymen that were out there, dealing with screens and what have you?
Yeah. There's a couple things that just kind of all lined up, and some of those things we had control over, and some of the things we did not. One of them was most screen shops are run by production guys. They know how to make screens, but they don't know how to run a business. And so what happens is that you end up with guys that are just awesome at making screens, but they would take 3 to 4 weeks for you to get there. They wouldn't show up on time. They would either undercharge, so they don't make enough money to keep their company going, or they'd overcharge and gouge customers. And so what we found is that with a little bit of knowledge, which my dad had the business experience and some maturity to him, but then the younger, my brother Monty and myself, were the service technicians, the youth and the mechanical ability. That was a really good combination from the consumer standpoint, because from a business, how do you run a business well? And so from the consumers, you and I are kind of all the same, and most of our customers are all the same. They just want somebody that's going to answer their phone, or right now it's either answer the phone, respond with an email or a text, but communicate with me at my time, not at your time. So if I have a screening need, I do have that need now. So I want to communicate with you now. So what we found, what was a big difference is answer your phone and take that priority of communicating with your customer as a number one priority for you in your business. So we started doing that. In a service-based business, working at somebody's home, that's probably their most important investment they have. If they're going to call somebody out to work in their home, they want to be able to trust that person, and they want to talk to a live voice. And so we started doing that. Hey, let me answer the phone.
And I imagine it different along those same lines, and be able to perform the service in a timely manner. A lot of people don't think of, screen repair as being a necessity. I know from my perspective, because I've got grandchildren that run in and out of our back door where we have a screen, and invariably we, every few months the screen gets pushed and it breaks. And of course, it lets bugs in, and people are screaming all the time, close the door. It becomes an inconvenience, and quite frankly, it looks like hell. I know I go through somebody replacing that screen 4 times a year.
Yeah. So, Paul, what you would do is you would find Screenmobile. They'd answer the phone or return an email request. They could schedule it without you even being there. They'll go by. They'll rescreen the door for you. They'll take a picture of it. They'll send you a picture of it completed with email you an invoice, and you can pay for it with a credit card. And that pain of that inconvenience of how do you haul this thing around, you take it somewhere, you leave it there, you have to go pick it back up. That's kind of the easy part. The hard part is when you have to make new ones. Did I measure right? Is it the right size? How do I know it's going to fit? How do I adjust it? Is it going to slide correctly? And so a lot of people just say, you know what, I've tried it once, I'm just going to forget it. I'm just not going to do it. And so they find us. They find Screenmobile somehow. Some of our marketing pays off. They find us, and they're like, well, that's easy. I'll just call them, and they'll take care of it. And that's why we just make it real simple for people. Just you call us, we screen. And it works, and people just love that.
Yeah, I remember seeing my dad with the old pizza cutter trying to put the rubber in the groove, and oh my God! But it's a lot more than that. Obviously, I love one of the quotes that I read from you about taking outdoors indoors. And really, there's so many parts of the country where you can enjoy your outside living, and it's an extension of your home into an all-round all year round proposition. Not to mention, of course, we hear a lot about insects, carrying viruses. Talk some to that perspective from the consumer's point of view.
Yeah, what's happening, Paul, is outdoor living concepts have been around a long time, but the builders are building homes with that in mind now. It used to be you'd have maybe a little front entryway, maybe not even a back porch, but now the builders are building, especially down towards the south and east, they're including a screened-in porch. They're including an outdoor concept. And so what's happening is we're coming along and we're working with builders to build their screened-in porches for them. But there's some variables, and some of those customers don't want to screen there all year round. So we'll build them so they're motorized and they're on a roll, and so they'll roll up and down. So when you want your screen, you press a button and it rolls down, or you crank it. You got to put it with a crank, and it rolls down so you can have the convenience, but then you don't have to look at it all year round. Roll it up out of the way. The other cool part about it is some customers, when they have an outdoor patio, they put nice furniture in there. They put carpeting or tile. They put some plants. It's a nice place to come and sit. Well, we have a product where we have screen, and then we have panels that slide up and down. So it's kind of like a three-seasons room where you can weatherize it. So if it's going to be rainy and stormy out, you raise these panels either up or down, and it keeps the wind and the rain out. It's pretty neat. So that way your carpet stays dry, your tile stays dry. It's a really slick way to do it. And then we can do regular patio panels. But from the consumer standpoint, it takes that usable space, and they don't have to be worried about bitten by mosquitoes or flies or ticks or having any of the diseases that are coming along with mosquitoes, and they can still enjoy their outdoors. And so we've done them on boathouses, we've done them on gazebos, some of our guys have taken their truck and trailers, because that's how we work with a truck and trailer. They put them on a barge and take them over to a guy's private island and did a screened-in porch for him on his island, and they put it back on a barge and bring it home. So it's pretty neat. So we're really big in just what are your needs, and let us see if we can help you, because we have many options. The size of screen depends on the size of bug, what you want the screen to do. Do you want to keep your house cool? Do you want to keep the pets from tearing up your screens? Do you want privacy? Do you want ventilation? There's just so many different variables. You want screens that can last longer. So it's one of the things that we've done, Paul, is we've taken a national perspective on the screening industry to each one of our franchisees. So a guy on the East Coast may not have products ready available to him if he was a normal screen company, but since he's part of the system, the guys from the West and from the East, they're sharing ideas, sharing products, and finding out that they work on both sides of the country. And it's pretty cool to see how products are being utilized in a non-typical way, and the consumers are just loving it.
Yeah, most people, I know, like myself, I'm 60 years old. I grew up with the old, screens on the outside of the house that you took in for the winter. As spring came around, you cleaned them, you made the repairs, you put them in, and hope they all went in square. A couple of them looked like they were a little bit bent, and it was just, just the way it was. It was just totally a functional component of not having air conditioning and leaving the windows open. And the screens are, of course, today's day and age, as you were alluding to, with all the different possibilities and applications of screen today, that has changed that. But it also, needs to be a little bit nicer looking too. You don't want to look at a house today and look at it and say, oh, they got the screens on. They look like they were permanently part of the house. And I think this all goes into, this wave of home remodeling activity that continues to rise year over year. Can you talk a little bit from that perspective?
Yeah, where it really comes into is on the porches and patios. We have different color frames to match different color homes and different color windows. And the screen comes in, usually basic bug screen is gray and black, but then the sun controls have different colors as well. But in porches and patios, that's where it gets really kind of fun and kind of interesting. Because when we get to the remodeling stage of a porch and patio, they can take these rolls that I was talking about, and they can build boxes up in the soffit, and they recess these back up inside of the soffit area with the tracks that they'll put down and kind of hide the tracks. And so what happens is you don't have anything that obstructs your view. The box and the tracks are all out of the way. And so it just looks like a regular patio, but when you want to have that enclosure or you want to have a screen room in, you press a button and you can have 3 or 4 of these come down all at the same time. It's really neat and they have like felt at the bottom so they seal the bugs out. They have zippers on the side, half of a zipper so it goes down in a track. So it just makes a complete bug seal around a patio, and the customers just love that. Just love it. And rather than the traditional, what you were talking about, status quo, 2x4s, 4x4s, staple on your screens, put wood lattice over the top, tree branch falls, puts a hole in it, you got to take the lattice off, take all the staples out, restaple it, repaint it, put it all back in. We could just roll those up out of the way, and it's a really convenient. So it's pretty neat how that really works. In the houses that they're building now, with the outdoor living concepts, with the screened-in porches, either fixed panels or motorized, they're just beautiful. Some of the stuff that my team and my franchisees are doing are just awesome. They're doing some beautiful work. Very impressive. Some of the pictures I see in videos and when I go...
I was going to say, I would imagine seeing some of the pictures and doing some of my due diligence ahead of today's show, you have this nice branded truck show up. You had probably most likely have been a phone call with a pleasant person, schedule, your prompt person shows up in uniform, is able to get things done fairly quickly on site. Is it a norm for people that maybe have asked to replace 2 screens, all of a sudden have you looking at more than that while you're on site?
Yeah, usually they can only see what they can that are obvious. And in our world, we're looking at all the screens, front, back, front door, back door, window screens, porch, patio screens. And so, we're there to service our customers or whatever their needs are. If it's just 2 window screens, we'd be more than happy to take care of that. But what usually happens, if it's just 2 window screens, we can do that for you, but you have gray window screens and you just painted your house white. So why don't we replace your screens with white to match your windows? And so what happens is, I never knew we could do that. That's a great idea. Let's do that. And so what our franchisees find out is if they just be fair and honest, but let them know what's out there in the screening world. Our customers just don't know. They're getting more and more educated. We're trying to let them know what their options are. But, yeah, we do that all the time, is we're selling additional products. If they like what you do and you do business well, they usually ask you, what else do you do? If you don't do business well, they won't ask you. And you're just stuck doing the 2 windows.
Excellent. You're listening to Franchise Today. I'm Paul Segreto. Riding solo today as my co-host Stan Friedman is dealing with the side effects of an extensive travel schedule, including a nasty red eye last night. I'm talking today with Scott Walker, our guest, President and CEO of California-based Screenmobile. Franchise Today is brought to you by FRM Solutions, offering best-in-class CRM and document management software designed specifically for franchising. FRM empowers real-time business intelligence, communication, and collaboration between all members of the franchisor's team and prospective as well as existing franchisees. This enables you to simply and seamlessly track, access, and manage all messages to and from prospective and existing franchisees, and yes, including text. Legal and compliance is simplified too, with FRM's document management and even site visits can be digitally facilitated and scored with FRM. Make today the day you give FRM a look and assure that all of your candidate and franchisee correspondence, including text messages, are being permanently tracked and stored in candidate and franchisee records. FRM even provides state-of-the-art digital experiences for your prospective franchisees, replacing old-style virtual brochures. No long-term contracts, multiple upgrades each year at no additional cost. No excuses, just solutions on the web at frmsolutions.com. Franchise Today is also brought to you by the Franchise Foundry, where they've been bringing emerging brands to market for more than 30 years. The Foundry fosters healthy, sustainable growth for their clients, the kind that comes from experience. The Franchise Foundry provides both coaching and consulting, a hybrid approach that delivers more effective solutions for both the franchisor's corporate team as well as for their franchisees. The Foundry team is rich in practical hands-on experience and expertise with general business management, operational and change management, digital marketing, and, of course, franchise recruitment and development. Plus, the Foundry team can also assist you in creating roadmaps for potential mergers and acquisitions and provide you with the guidance needed to navigate them. Learn more about the Franchise Foundry along with their expanding list of clients at www.franchisefoundry.com. So as we get past this halfway point, I'd like to start talking about the franchise perspective. And just to go back to some of your earlier comments, bringing in your sister, bringing in other family members into the equation. You opened the second location in Palm Springs. What did the future hold at that point?
That was the building stage. It's always exciting in the building stage. You're learning how to be a franchisor and what's required there. That stage also was it was an exciting stage because there's a lot of newness going on, making sure that all your systems are correct, making sure you're starting to learn how to work with vendors and understand working with entrepreneurs, and they buy a franchise, so they're a driven individual, and how do you corral those individuals and keep them motivated and keep them enthused, and making sure you're picking the right ones. And so that stage right there was really a stage of learning and trying to figure out, what is your ideal candidate and what is your business model, and how do you match those two together? And that took some work. That took some hard work to figure that out.
I'm sure it wasn't like you went to the library and picked up a few books on how to franchise your business, because probably at that point they were few and far between. But I think the thing that really intrigued me is, as you said, y'all started out as a franchisee, and when you decided to franchise it yourself, you wanted to do some things better than the previous franchisor or the previous franchisor that you were with. And I'm not, certainly don't want to, condemn anybody because they don't have an opportunity to share their piece. What specifically did you feel was paramount for you to franchise and the way you wanted to treat new franchisees coming on board?
You would think that every franchisee is the same as far as it comes to support. And so what we found is, we had kind of a different father-son team in the previous franchise that we had, Outstocker, and our support needs were different. What we needed from the franchisor was just, in our minds, it was just different. And so one of the things that we were big about is if we ever started a franchise system, we have to realize that a franchisee comes in with strengths and weaknesses. We have to be able to identify those with the franchisee and then support them and encourage them in their strengths, but also understand their weaknesses and be able to either bring them up in their weaknesses or find other people to help them with their weaknesses. And so one of our big things was, knowing that our system is our system and just follow the system, it works, but you're dealing with people. and not every person is perfect, and so you have to realize that they're gonna have different support needs depending on their giftedness. And so that's one of the things that we really wanted to make sure that we did that well, is to take those franchisees and understand who they are and really encourage and support them on where they're at and what they're good at, and then help them where they just need some propping up and help. So that was one big thing. The other big thing is making sure that whenever we're doing regional meetings or conventions, that they're an educational aspect to them. There's camaraderie, there's building the brand, but more importantly is they've got to leave with a value. You just don't go there and kumbaya together. There has to be a value for them to spend the money and the time to come to a convention. And so, that's another thing that we've been doing over the 30 plus years, is ensuring that we spend a good amount of time, and my team does, to put a really good convention on that we think is beneficial for them and beneficial for their franchisees. So that was lacking, and it could have just been the age of the franchisor. He wasn't quite mature enough. Not himself, but his system wasn't quite mature enough, and so we found that. Go ahead.
No. I was agreeing with you. Yes, a lot of times it is the system that's premature itself. Yeah,
and so we wanted support. We want to make sure we have a top-notch training, not only training for them how to be a screener, how to make screens, but how do you be a business owner? What are some business owner type decisions that you need to make? How do you organize yourself and your company for success? How do you train on that? How do you encourage on that? So, we just identified some things that we wanted to do differently if we started our own franchise, and so that's what we do, and that's what we've done over the years. Is ensuring
it's interesting that the last 12 years, and I definitely have to give you kudos and high marks for being ranked in the Franchise 500 the last 12 years consecutively. That's a tremendous achievement, as we know, especially in today's day and age with a more fickle consumer, a more probably even a more diligent franchisor candidate, tremendously widespread competition, not to mention another 1,000 or 2 businesses hanging out their franchise shield. So the last 12 years, absolutely tremendous to be listed. Tell us a little bit about, the early years of franchising. I mean, there's got to be some peaks and valleys along the way. Take us through those first 5 or 8 years of what franchising was about then, because all too often with the guests that we have, like you've achieved a nice relative level of success over years. We've seen this nice, hockey stick growth curve, which I imagine is some of what you went through. But, certainly not spend enough time talking about what some of those early stage trials and tribulations are. And I think those would be absolutely great to share, considering a big part of our listening audience are wannabe franchisors or just recently have become franchisors.
One of the big struggles that we had, because like you said, there was no book to go to, is how do you figure out territory size? What's since we work on homes, what's the right size? And there's, we spent hours and hours and months trying to figure out what's the right size territory. And so one of the things that we did that I think most franchisors do is you try and get a franchisee, right? You just try and get whoever you can. So if they pass the fog and mirror test, they're in. And then territory size, how big do you want it? And so we made some mistakes in the beginning by not really understanding how to right size a territory. And depending on the franchise system and, what that looks like for each one. That's kind of a hard one to figure out. I would encourage anybody that's going to be doing territory mapping and size of territories, depending on the type of home and type of service that you're providing, is to really, really focus in on that and spend the time that it takes to figure out the right size territory, and always keep an eye on that, making sure that your territory sizing is correct for your success of your franchisees. Too big of a territory harms them. Too small of a territory harms them. So what's that right mix? And that took a while to figure that out. Some of the mistakes we made, we sold the whole state of Idaho to one person.
Mm-hmm.
One trailer. Okay, that doesn't work. Or, you just sold too big areas, and it became such a burden to these guys. They just couldn't handle all the work that comes in. And so what happens is they start harming the brand because the customers are finding them and they can't service them, and they don't want to grow their business to accommodate that. And so now you have customers that are calling because they want screening work, but the guy's booked out 6, 8, 12 weeks, and so he's harming his business because he's got too big of an area. So what's that balance? So I would encourage them to find the balance on a territory size. And so we did make some mistakes in the beginning, too big of territories, yeah, absolutely. And then probably the other thing in the beginning is, there's the first franchisees. There were some really good ones, but there were ones that weren't so good. They were just the wrong fit. And so, you get enough wounds in life, picking the wrong people, you'll become very picky at who you pick to join your system. And so that's one of the things I would say to a new franchisee is make sure or new franchisor, make sure you profile who is your candidate, who is that person, what does their personality need to be like, what do they need to be gifted in, and go after and find those people. Don't settle. Settling will cause you nothing but pain and will cause your franchisees nothing but pain because it's just not the right fit for them. And then they won't be successful. They won't validate. Then you got to either get them out. You got to get up a lawsuit. It just becomes a mess. So, these new franchisors want to grow their business, but just take your time and get as best as you can, pick the right people for your business model. And we made those mistakes.
So we picked. Yeah, I imagine a lot, and some of it too. Having worked with a large number of emerging franchises, that really the early stage franchisees a lot of time aren't the franchise candidates you would pick later on, and vice versa. You probably have, I know you have more of an entrepreneurial spirit working with a company that might only have a couple of units. So you have people choose emerging brands for a variety of reasons. But as we're talking about, ideal candidates and the profile, what does your ideal candidate look like today?
Yeah, I'll back up just a little bit. Some of the franchisees that we did pick are still with us today, 30 years later, which is unheard of. My attorney says, you don't want to continue licensing these guys. And it's like, no, but they're great people and they're doing a great job. So you will have some successes and you will have some challenges. Just as best you can, pick the right one.
Sure.
But, Paul, I would say, what was the question one more time?
I was just, looking at today for your brand, what is your ideal candidate profile? What are you looking for in a candidate?
We're looking for an owner-operator. It's not an absentee owner. It's just our business model. No absentee owners. They can have designated managers, but they have to be involved in the business. So that's one. That's kind of the big funnel is owner operator. The second one is they have to like dealing with people. So if they love working on computers and behind a desk and not having to interact with people, not interested. So one, they have to be a people person. They have to enjoy being around people. They have to be able to do consultative type selling. In other words, they can't be afraid not talk to people. So they just have to be what I would call just be friendly. Are you a friendly person? Are you trustworthy? Do you have an easy personality to get to know, or an easy smile? People will buy from people they trust. So if you're not friendly, you're not personable, and you don't like being around people, I don't want you in business. So from a personality standpoint, that's kind of what I'm looking for. They don't really have to be extroverts. That's not really needed. They just need to be, I would say, comfortable in their skin. Just comfortable for who they are, and just be friendly and personable. That's one side of it. The other side of that is I need someone to be somewhat mechanically inclined. I don't need them to be a master carpenter. I don't need them to be a auto mechanic, but they've got to be able to know how to work with their hands. So I like to say that you need to know what the business end of a screwdriver is. If you don't, it's going to be too hard. I have a really good friend. He would do phenomenal in this business from a sales standpoint, but he's terrible at mechanically inclined. I wouldn't have him as a candidate, just because he doesn't know how things go together. And we can teach people how to put things together, but they just have to have that mechanical ability. And so those are, being friendly, personable, having a mechanical ability, and then they've got to have some money, got to have some capital, and the other thing is, we look. It's a 10-year agreement with us, so we look for bringing somebody into our family, our Screenmobile family, for a 10-year time frame, and so you got to be able to get along with our team. So we really like it when people come out and we get to meet them, we get to talk to them, they get to see who we are. There's no smoke and mirror. It's a lot of work. It's hard work, and we just let them know that up front. We can help you. We can teach you. Do you have these skill sets? And if so, and our team like you, we probably should do something. If not, that's okay. Let's not get started, because there's so much that has to go on and so much work that has to happen that we just want to find the right people. And so the ideal candidate, personable, mechanically inclined, friendly, trustworthy. And then the last thing that we look for is if they've taken care of their personal life when it comes to their finances, they're probably going to take care of their business life when they get into Screenmobile. So, no matter what they've done in the past, if they've worked at Walmart as a greeter, if they run their own business, if they've been an employee, what do you do with your money, and how do you take care of your money? Really will determine how you will take care of your money as a business owner. And so that's kind of one of the things I would tell potential franchisors: don't ignore their past, because their past is, there may be some things in their past that they can give some rationale on, and we've had those. But then there are some things that you just look at it and say, listen, this guy just makes bad decisions when it comes to money. And there's a good indication they're going to make bad decisions when it comes to their business and money. And that becomes a lot of pain. Yeah, a lot of pain for you.
Sure.
And you would think, Paul, that coaching them and supporting them and guiding them and directing them, encouraging them through that, if that's one of their weaknesses, you're just not there with them when they're making those decisions on when they're going to go on vacation and how much they're going to go on vacation. And they can blow themselves up no matter how much money they're making when they're not taking care of their personal life when it comes to their spending habits. Right, no doubt. So franchisee comes on board, he signs his franchise agreement, and he remits his franchise fee. What can he or she expect as the next steps? Yeah. So once we've gone through the sales process, they're in, we're ready to go. We've all stacked hands that they're a good fit for the team and they're a good fit for us. Then we order their trailer. That takes about 6 to 8 weeks. We schedule their training. We get everything else on order for them. We do a onboarding call to get them prepared for it. We schedule their where they're going to be, helping them schedule where they're going to stay at. So then we start. They start opening up bank accounts. We sign franchise agreements. If they're getting loans, we'll help them with the paperwork on that. And we just, from the time they sign the agreement to the time we get them open is usually about 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll take them from knowing nothing about screens to learning quite a bit about screens. We do a 2-week training class here at our office. We have a training room and a house that we train on, and so it's hands-on production. And then we do a 13-week, we call it a Fast Start program, which is every week for 13 weeks after training, we're going to continue the education and continue the learning on different topics that you're going to need to know as you start building your business. Because what we found is, and most franchisors will find this, it's not about when you take them through training, it's not about the material and the material that they're learning. It's about retaining the information when they get out into the field or retaining the information after they leave. So what we found is that we have to not only train the information, but then we have to support it in little pieces at a time over a 13-week period, which ramps them up and gets them up into the income range quicker that they need to get into. So that's something we've been working on pretty hard to make sure that we ramp them up quicker in the learning stage. We're trying to cut down that learning curve and the time that it takes.
And now they're full-blown franchisee operating their business. What is the typical day in the life of a franchisee? Yep.
Day in the life. They're having fun. They're working hard. They're having fun. You know, it's really neat that the customers are calling you because they found you somehow, right? So they may not know everything they need to know, but they look good and they know enough to get themselves in trouble. So they're getting out there. They're calling my support team. They're sending pictures and videos, and they're doing it. They're making money. They're generating income. And they'll start in the morning. You know, they'll get themselves organized in the morning, load up materials, take their truck and trailer because it's a mobile. So we teach them how to load their equipment. They go out to the job site. They measure, manufacture, and install window, door, screens, porches, and patios. And they'll hit, depending on the size of the job, it might be one job a day because it's so large, or it might be 5 or 6 jobs a day. And so you're having 5 or 6 touches with these different customers throughout the day. Measuring, manufacturing, and installing window and door screens. The nice part about it is you're getting paid 5 or 6 times a day, which is really, you know, in the construction industry, you know, we're kind of in that world, but more in remodeling and home improvement. Some of these guys they're doing work and they're billing and they're not getting paid for 60 or 90 days. So for us, you know,
no receivables, none of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. You know, cash is king. So you have a good cash flow, and you don't have to. So it's really good. So they usually work.
The $1 million question. You know, if I were to take a group of your franchisees, put them together in a room, and ask them to describe in one word the relationship as a franchisee with you as the franchisor, what would the whole experience as a franchisee? What would that one word be?
Probably honest.
That's excellent. So with a couple of seconds that we have to wrap up, tell us how individuals can learn more about your opportunity, maybe trade shows you might be at, or the best way just for them to learn more, and also give us an idea of parts of the country you might be looking for current franchisees.
Yeah. You know, probably the best way is just to go to our website. That's Screenmobile.com. That's our consumer site, And when you get onto the consumer site, it says, franchise opportunities, and that takes you to our franchise.screenmobile.com. And we're here really to, they're at a pivotal stage in their career, in their life. They're learning. They want to make a change, and so we're here to help them, guide them through that process. So they can either send us an email, they can give us a phone call, they can fill out a form for more information. We're really there to help to see if this is a good fit for what they're looking for and what we're offering. We don't take every candidate, we don't take everybody, but that's probably the best start. Give us some information. Okay. They can fill out a form. They can always call. We have a 720-316-6625. They can always call us if they want, or email us at franchiseinfo@screenmobile.com. They can text. There's just different ways, but it's really, and I have a good quality team that really understands the brand, and they take them through a process to make sure that it's a good fit for them. And we've been having some really good, solid people joining our team lately, and really enjoy the new franchisees coming on. Not that we don't enjoy our old ones, but we're just seeing a nice new batch of really good quality people. And I don't know why, but either we're able to decipher who we want to bring on better, or we're telling the story better, and we're getting the right people. I'm not sure yet, but I do know that we're really happy with what we're seeing, and our franchisees are just great people, great team members.
Any particular parts of the country that might be a hotter spot than others right now?
Down south, we're looking for people. Florida market's always big. Down in Georgia, we just put a location in north of Atlanta. We need some more people in Georgia. South Carolina, there's some area. Texas, we got a lot of area open in Texas. California is we've got a few spots left in California, but it's pretty full. Arizona's full, Utah's full. We got some Midwest areas available. That's kind of that area of the country. Yeah.
Well, Scott,
we're looking for some.
We blew through an hour.
Wow. Well,
we blew through an hour. We've only got about 2 minutes left. I certainly wanted to take the time to thank you properly. I really appreciate you being our guest today. And again, I pass on a note from Stan Friedman, my co-host, who would have loved to have been here today. But as he said, if I forced him to be here today, he might have been cranky, and we probably wouldn't want that.
Well, thank you, Paul. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Well, that's another segment of Franchise Today. Franchise Today will be celebrating our great country's independence next week on 4th of July, so we will not air live, but it's a great opportunity for you to get on to Franchise Today at Blog Talk Radio. That's blogtalkradio.com/franchise today, or look for us at Franchise Today on iTunes. Listen to any one of over 300 segments of Franchise Today on demand. I think you'll find it very interesting and very helpful. Until 2 weeks from now, my name is Paul Segreto, wishing you the best, the very best, in this great thing called
Franchise Pro.
And Franchise Today
Stan the Man,
is out.
Paul Segreto. Time to show you the way of franchising today. Hey, do you possess the spirit of an entrepreneur? Or lay your business plan down like a rug or a floor? Or maybe you have a dream of opening a chain of delis, or whatever passion lights that pilot light under your belly. Or do you want to start a business, fam, using the proven trademark from another brand? And grow together and expand like a rage of fire. from a single to a multi-unit empire. Well, pay attention to this podcast that you hear and streaming in HD, so fine-tune both of your ears. And Standing Paul lays down the law. Whether you want to be a franchisee or a franchisor, it's all about sustainable growth, the sensible franchising, proven concepts to start enterprising. So use your left and right side of your brain and absorb this knowledge here. Franchising today, Badlands, baby. Franchising today, sustainable growth, the sensible franchising. Franchising today, sustainable growth, the sensible franchising. Franchising today, franchising today, franchising today, yeah.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. At American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.